Before we begin, please make sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And today I'm going to talk about preparing for your SATs, including tips and some tricks when you're taking an SAT or a standardized test. The first thing you want to do is prepare. That means you want to practice using old test questions, test papers. Now, you can purchase them at Amazon. There is a book that you can buy. It includes 8 real tests, or you can download it online for free from the College Board. I will include links below. You can also try the online test using khanacademy.com. I've looked through those. However, I don't think they give you the most appropriate feel of the SATs. My suggestion would be, if you were to do that, to use those as your very first warm-up questions before moving on. If you like to work online, I suggest practicing on no more than 2 to 3 practice tests before actually moving on to practice doing your test on paper, because the paper is the method that you will be doing your test on. I would suggest working on paper for another 2 or 3 practice tests before actually trying to emulate the test conditions on your final 2 or 3 review tests. That means sitting in a quiet room at a desk with no distractions, doing a time test. This will give you a good gauge of how well you take your test and manage your time. Pencils. You need to use a number 2 pencil. I suggest these from Staedtler. They're, in my view, one of the best pencils you use for test taking. They do not break as easily and have a nice overall feel to them. When you use them, or make sure you use them throughout your practice sessions, because you want to get used to using that same kind of pencil throughout the whole experience. So these ones are the ones I suggest. You do not want to drop them or hit them or bang them around, because you don't want the lead to break. When you go, or before you go to your exam, make sure they're all sharpened, and bring 2, maybe 3 pencils with you. You don't want to be caught with a broken lead, and you do not want to be sharpening your pencils during the test. When you're sharpening your pencil, make sure you do not sharpen it in a very sharp point. Same reason why you do not ever want to use a mechanical pencil. Why? Because when you have a very sharp tip, it tends to scratch against your answer key, and you don't want the surface of the paper on your bubble sheet to get too scratched out. It makes erasing that very difficult. Yes. Do not ever use the eraser that comes with a pencil. Instead, I recommend using the Pentel erasers. I found that these are really good. They erase cleanly and nicely. Now, one thing you want to do is, before you take the test, make sure the surface of your eraser is clean. So you want to rub off any remaining or residual pencil marks or lead marks on your eraser. Why? Because you don't want to erase and leave the smudges of your previous erasing on your bubble sheet. Optional items. You should wear a regular clock. Bring a regular clock, or wear a regular analog or digital watch, not a smartwatch, which is not allowed. You may also bring a small desktop clock like this one shown. Why? Because sometimes when you are in a testing situation, the clock on the classroom wall may not be facing in front of you. It may be located in the back side of the classroom, so you don't want to be repeatedly turning back to look at the clock every 5, 10, 15 minutes. It would be good to have something you have on hand and in front of you. Next is a small ruler. It's optional, but potentially recommended for students. What is the ruler for? That is, when you go to the bubble sheet, you can go ahead and put your ruler on each line as you go across. That way, in a high stress test situation, you do not end up coloring the wrong circle. Finally, calculators. You can use a graphing calculator if that's what you're comfortable with. If not, I personally like the Casio scientific calculator. It will do just about all the functions you need without being too fancy. The price is good, and this is the one that I would recommend for the calculator section. When you're taking the test, time is of the essence. So make sure you keep track of how much time you're using per question. For example, in this section, you are allowed 25 minutes for 20 questions. I would suggest no more than 1 minute per question because you need time to also circle your bubbles and check your work. So with 20 questions, we'll average it out to 5 minutes for 5 questions. Try not to get too stressed about, keeping it to 1 minute per question because some questions are going to take longer than others. So let's keep it to 5 minutes for a 5 minute, five blocks of questions. When you read over the test questions, go ahead and read through the questions and then go over the answers as well. That will give you an idea of what the question is looking for before you actually work on it. So for example, let's look at number 1. Let's say you're not sure which one it is. So, but you know that's not, say, this question or that answer or that answer. And you go ahead and make a mark of the one that you know for sure is not the correct answer. Okay. Let's say you're going to skip it. You can go to your bubble sheet and make sure when you're skipping it, you try to make a little note of the question here to indicate to yourself that that's one that you skipped. You may want to color the option that you think might be correct, and that way you don't accidentally fill in the wrong columns or bubbles when you go in and fill them. Okay, let's say that you have finished all your questions for that section and you are coming back to the skips. Now, if you're stuck on a question, what can you do? More often than not with the SAT questions, you can force the answer out. So you can plug in each of these values in the option. So say in question 1, what's the value of x? Is x equals 2? To get k equals 3, plug it back into there. So you get 2 minus 1, divide by 3. Did k equals 3? No. Then you move on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one if applicable, till you get k equals 3 in your original question. Now, the SATs no longer penalize you for getting the wrong answer. So if you're out of time, just go ahead and mark them all in the last few minutes of your test, as so. Okay, and usually the moderator or the teacher overseeing the test will call out 5 minutes before the end of the test. That's a good time for you to start checking your work, making good guesses on the ones you skipped, and finally filling in all the rest randomly. Do not leave anything blank. Alright, and that's the end of our session today. If you liked my videos, please like and subscribe. I will be adding more video tutorials in algebra, pre-algebra, geometry, and pre-calculus in the future. I also offer tutoring services on wyzant.com. And please visit my website and make comments and let me know what you'd like to see. All links to the items I mentioned will be down below, and I hope to hear from you. Thank you.